Hi everyone. In today's video, I will be going over the Q2 benchmark review. This has 27 problems. For this, you will want to have a calculator handy. I'll be using it quite a bit. Front page. This looks complicated. I promise you it's not. 3 different people went shopping at 3 different stores. They spent different amounts of time in each store, generating a total amount of money spent at the 3 stores. Use the table below to answer questions number 1, number 2, and number 3. So, our 3 people are Katie, Jack, and Logan. All 3 of them went to Target, Walmart, and Marshall's. So, this is the amount of time that they spent at each store. And then the big unknown is how much money they each spent at a store. That's what's kind of missing, the missing information. But we do know how long they were in each store. So that's all we could take from the table. I'm actually going to not answer number 1 first because I found a lot of students benefited from answering 2 and 3 and then coming back to 1. So that's what I'm going to do. What is the correct equation representing target? So you find target in the table. And a lot of you can pretty easily put this together. Some of you are going through and just seeing which numbers make the most sense. So like if I looked at A, we have 2, 3, and 2. Well, if I look at target, I've got 2, 3, and 1.2, so that's not going to work. B is automatically out. C, I've got 2, 3, 1.2, but the total is different. So D is my answer. 2, 3, 1.2, and 239.21. D. And that's pretty much what you're going to do for number 3 as well. Marshall's, you want 1.542. Well, that's a minus, so that's out not it. 1.542, so it looks like D, and then the number of money spent, that matches. And then A and C were just not contenders. Now, that was pretty easy. We were just kind of looking and matching. We weren't realizing what we were doing here. Notice that when I did this, the first number was Katie's, and this was X in both equations. So this was X, the middle column was the Y, and then the last column was Z. So notice we would, if we wanted to actually solve this problem, be setting up a system of 3 equations and 3 variables. So going back to number 1, what would the variable X represent? As I've just pointed out, 2 and 1.5, those both came from Katie's box. So our answer choice is the one that has to do with Katie. B, rate per hour of Katie. All right, those were all with the table. Now we're on a new problem. We want to eliminate the Y variable. Pairing up equations 1 and 3, what does the third equation need to be multiplied by? This looks a little complicated. It's not. We're not solving all of this. We are just doing a setup, if you will. Pairing up equations 1 and 3. So these 2. So I can even mark out the second equation and ignore it. What does the third equation need to be multiplied by? And let me backtrack. We want to eliminate Y. So I'm looking to specifically eliminate 15Y and 5Y. Remember, for these to cancel, they have to be the same number, and one of these has to be positive and the other has to be negative. So what I want is, if you can't already tell, I could turn 5 into 15. So I'm not going to change the 15y. It's going to stay. I want to change this 5y into a negative 15y. What would I have to multiply 5 by to get to negative 15? Negative 3. C. Number 5, same type of question. We want to eliminate the x variable. So this time we're focusing on x. Pairing up equations 2 and 3. So this time we are ignoring the first equation. What does the second equation need to be multiplied by? So we have x and negative 4x. So if this is a negative 4x, I just need this to be a 4x. And they would cancel. So I need to multiply this x by 4 to turn it into 4x. D. There's our front page. Page number 2. For number 6, number 7, and number 8, solve the quadratic equations by any method. Now we say that, but there is a way to go about it. Reminder, your methods, your go-to is R factoring, slide and divide specifically if you have a number in front of that x squared, and then quadratic formula. The quadratic formula, I'll write it up here. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So, number 6, 2x squared plus 5x minus 10. I'll go ahead and tell you this does not factor nicely at all. So you'll have to use quadratic formula. But just to demonstrate if you tried to factor, let's talk about that. If we tried factoring first, 2x squared plus 5x minus 10. So we would do 2 times the negative 10 and get x squared plus 5x minus 20. Then we'd make our ACB chart. So AC is now negative 20, B is 5. So we need the factors of 20 that we could get negative 20 with and a positive 5. So 20 doesn't have that many factors, so let's go through them. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Yeah, that's it. So to get negative 20, one of these has to be a negative. To get a positive 5, the big number has to be positive here. So let's put that negative on all of them. Negative 1 plus 20 is positive 19. It's not what we're looking for. Negative 2 plus 10, that's positive 8. It's closer, but that's not what we're looking for. Negative 4 plus 5, that's positive 1. That's not what we're looking for. There are no other factors. So not factorable, you have to use quadratic formula. So while factoring can save you some time, this is kind of a setback, unfortunately. All right, quadratic formula. We need to label our ABC. A is 2, B is 5, C is negative 10. X equals negative B is 5, plus or minus square root. B is 5 squared minus 4 times A is 2 times C is negative 10. And it's all over 2 times A, which is 2. Negative 5 plus or minus square root. If you plan to use a calculator, you can do so. Make sure you type all of these symbols in. So I will demonstrate on mine. So we have 5 squared. And to be a good example, I'll put parentheses around it. That's really important when you have a negative. If you have a negative in that parenthesis, you have to put parentheses. Minus 4, parenthesis 2, parenthesis negative 10. 105. So we have just 105 over 2 times 2 is 4. 105 is not a perfect square, but I'm still going to split this up because I need answers. So split it up. Two cases. Negative 5 plus the square root of 105 over 4. And negative 5 minus the square root of 105 over 4. Now I've already warned you these are not nice, so we will get decimals. When you're typing this in, do the top part of the fraction first. So negative 5 plus the square root of 105. Hit equals, and then we're going to take this number and divide it by 4. There's my first decimal. We'll just do 2 decimal places. That'll be 1.31. And then I'm going to repeat that with the second expression. Negative 5 minus the square root of 105. Divide by 4. That gives me negative 3.81. These are my answers. 1.31 and negative 3.81. Number 7, x squared plus 3x minus 28. This one, it does factor nicely. Yeah. So we're going to factor. And there's no number in front of the x squared besides 1, so we don't have to worry about slide and divide. We're just going to straight up factor it. So we need to find our factors. We have our x, and we need our ACB table. AC is negative 28, B is 3. We need factors of 28. Multiplied will give us a negative 28. When combined will give us 3. So 1 and 28 are the ones that automatically come to mind. To get negative 28, one of these has to be a negative. To get a positive here, it has to be the smaller number. 28 minus 1, that's 27. That's not what I'm looking for. The next pair that shows up, in my head at least, is 4 and 7. Negative 4 and 7. Negative 4 plus 7 is positive 3. So these are the factors I am looking for. So we have x minus 4, x plus 7. Remember, these numbers don't go here. They go into the factors. To figure out what goes here, I split and solve. Because remember, this is equal to 0. So I have x minus 4 equals 0. X plus 7 equals 0. Add 4, x is 4. Subtract 7, x is negative 7. So x equals 4 and negative 7. Number 8. 0 equals 3x squared plus 52x minus 36. These are also nice numbers as well. You can either do slide and divide, or you can do quadratic formula. Both are allowed. I am actually going to do quadratic formula just because those numbers are going to get a bit big, and even for me, like, I don't want to sit here and try to mess with my calculator. I'd rather do quadratic formula. Plus, it'll give you guys some more practice. So quadratic formula it is. We need ABC. A is 3, B is 52, C is negative 36. X equals negative B is 52, plus or minus square root B 52 squared minus 4 times A is 3 times negative 36 is C, and it's all over 2 times 3. Looks like a lot, but that's why we use a calculator. X equals negative 52 plus or minus square root. We'll figure out what number is under that square root. So we have 52 squared. Again, I'm not typing in the square root with it, just what's under it. 52 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 36. Big number. 3136 over 6. Now we split. Well, actually, let's see if this is a perfect square first. I guess I should do that. And it is. It's 56. So let's write it one more time. Negative 52 plus or minus 56 over 6. Now I'll split it up. Negative 52 plus 56 over 6. Negative 52 minus 56 over 6. Negative 52 plus 56, that's a positive 4. And then 4 over 6, we can write that as 2/3 if we reduce it, divided by 2, both of these numbers. And then this one, negative 52 minus 56, that's negative 108. And then I'll need my calculator for that. Negative 108 divided by 6. Oof, that is not pretty. Oh, well, that's why. I was like, that's not what it's supposed to be. Negative 108 divided by 6. Yeah, there was no way it was going to be a number that small. Negative 18. All right, so x is 2/3 and negative 18. If you left this as 4/6, by the way, completely correct. If you write it as a decimal, still correct. That's fine. Number 9. A ball thrown into the air can be represented by the equation f of x. Reminder, this is just y equals negative 2x squared plus 3x plus 22. What is the height of the ball after 3 seconds? So you got to read in between the lines here. Always know what your variables represent. So, in here, what is the height of the ball after 3 seconds? Here we're talking about time, so x can only mean time here. It's not told, we're not told anything else. And then what is the height? Remember, y is a vertical measurement, so more than likely it's going to mean height, especially in these kinds of scenarios. So y is your height. So the question, what is the height? So that means y equals, we don't know, let's figure it out. After 3 seconds, when x is 3. X is 3, y we don't know. So we're going to plug 3 in for x. Negative 2 times 3 squared plus 3 times 3 plus 22. You can either type this whole thing in your calculator and get an answer, or you can just simplify it. I'm going to do that. Reminder, the more you practice simplifying in your head, the better you're going to get. Negative 2 times 3 squared is 9, plus 3 times 3, that's 9, plus 22. Negative 2 times 9, that's negative 18, plus 9 plus 22. Y equals negative 18 plus 9, that's negative 9, plus 22. That is going to be positive 13. Again, if you want to just put it in your calculator, you will get the same answer as long as you type it in correctly. Number 10. Using the equation for number 9, what is the height of the ball after 1 second? So again, what is the height? Y equals question mark, we're trying to figure it out. After 1 second, when x equals 1. So we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to put a 1 in here. Y equals negative 2 times 1 squared plus 3 times 1 plus 22. 1 squared is 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. So we have negative 2 plus 3 times 1 is 3 plus 22. Negative 2 plus 3, that's 1, plus 22, that's 23. B. Using the equation for number 9, how long will the ball take to hit the ground round to the nearest hundredth? Okay. How long? Time. How much time? Remember, x is time. So now x, we don't know. Let's figure it out. Will the ball take to hit the ground? That tells us something about y. If your ball is on the ground, it is no longer in the air. It doesn't have any height to it. It's on the ground. So the height of this ball is 0. So what is x when y is 0? Remember, y is here. So we're plugging in 0 here, not for x. So we have 0 equals negative 2x squared plus 3x plus 22. Now how do we solve for x? You guessed it. We either have to factor or quadratic formula. Since we have these answer choices and looking at them, they are not nice numbers, there's a really good chance that factoring is not going to work out. So let's do quadratic formula. So, ABC. I'll do that over here since I have the space. A is negative 2, B is positive 3, C is 22. Be careful with those signs. X equals negative B is 3, plus or minus square root of B, which is 3, squared, minus 4 times A is negative 2, times C is 22, and it's all over 2 times negative 2. I'm going to save this space for my answers. So let's go down here and write this out again. Negative 3 plus or minus square root. Let's figure out what number is under here. Three squared minus 4 times negative 2 times 22. 185. And that is all over negative 4. Again, now we just split and solve. And I really have the space over here, so I'm going to kind of exaggerate these arrows. So I have negative 3 plus the square root of 185 over negative 4. And negative 3 minus the square root of 185 over negative 4. So I'm going to find both of those. Calculator for that. So remember, type in just the top. Negative 3 plus the square root of 185. Get our answer, then we'll divide by negative 4. That gives me negative 2.65. And then I'm going to do the other one. Negative 3 minus the square root of 185. And then divide that by negative 4. And I get 4.15. Now, as you can see, only one of these is listed as an answer choice. Reminder, we're finding how long, how many seconds. This is 4.15 seconds. You can't have negative seconds, so that wouldn't have been an answer anyway. All right, number 12. Abby tosses a coin off a bridge into the lake below. The distance in feet the coin is above the water is modeled by the equation h equals negative 16t squared plus 96t plus 112, where t is time in seconds. When will the coin reach a maximum height? What is the greatest height of the coin? Maximum should be a clue for vertex. You need to find the vertex of this equation. The when will the coin reach its maximum height? That's the x value, which in this problem, that's t. T is where x usually is. What is the greatest height? When will it reach that height? That's your y value of the vertex. In this case, y is h. H for height. So find the vertex. The number in the x spot, that's going to be this here. The number in the y spot, that's going to be this here. So to find the vertex, you have to find the axis of symmetry. X equals negative b over 2a. So here b is 96, so this is negative 96 over 2 times a is negative 16. Make sure you include that sign. If you type this in correctly, if you type this into your calculator correctly, first off, if you want to do that, let me give a little tip here, negative 96 over negative 32. Figure out what this number is on bottom, then divide them. If you type this in exactly as you read it in the calculator, it's going to read it differently. I learned that the hard way. So multiply these out and then divide, and you'll get positive 3. Okay. So we have x equals 3, xt, whatever. 3 seconds. That is when the highest height will be reached. Now we have to figure out what is that height. So you find your axis of symmetry, your x value, 3, and now we're going to plug it into the equation. Now we know what happens at 3 seconds when time is 3. So I'm going to plug that in to figure out what that height is. H equals negative 16 times 3 squared plus 96 times 3 plus 112. Calculator. Negative 16, 3 squared, plus 96 times 3, plus 112, 256. So at 256 feet, that's the highest that the coin is going to reach. Number 13. Frank tossed a coin. This coin toss can be represented by the equation y equals negative 0.5 t squared plus 4t plus 9. How long will it take the coin to hit the ground? So again, we're still working with t is time in seconds, and then y is still our height. How long? Time is unknown. What's t? We don't know. Will it take the coin to hit the ground? If the coin is on the ground, then that means its height, y, is 0. We need to find t. We know y is 0. Plug in 0 for y and solve. 0 equals negative, it helps, right? 0.5 t squared plus 4t plus 9. This is equal to 0, so we can factor or use quadratic formula. Because of this negative 0.5 in front, let's use quadratic formula. A is negative 0.5, B is 4, and C is 9. All right. X equals negative, B is 4, plus or minus square root of 4 squared minus 4 times A is negative 0.5 times C is 9. All over 2 times A is negative 0.5. Don't forget those negatives. And then I'm not going to need much of the space down here, so I'm going to invade it. Okay. X equals negative 4 plus or minus. I want to know what's under the square root, and that's going to be over. This is negative 1. Okay. Calculator. Four squared minus 4 times negative 0.5 times 9. 34. Now we get our two equations. Negative 4 plus the square root of 34 over negative 1. And negative 4 minus the square root of 34 over negative 1. And then we're going to get our two answers down here. Calculator. Negative 4 plus the square root of 34. And then remember, when you divide something by negative 1, all you're doing is changing its sign. So this is negative 1.83. And then let's do the other one. Negative 4 minus the square root of 34 divided by negative 1. 9.83. Reminder, this is a story problem. Negatives are not allowed. 9.83. And notice that it's just 9.8 in the answers, so 9.8 is what we're looking for. Okay. 14. Does the equation f of x equals negative 33x squared plus 2x minus 18 have a max or a min? This comes from knowing which direction this quadratic is going. Is it going up or down? Please just take a second and draw a little picture. This negative in front of that x squared tells us that it goes down, so it's like this. That means we have a vertex up here. This is a maximum, A. 15. Does the equation f of x equals 4x squared minus 2x plus 233 have a max or a min? Look at the front. This is positive. It's going up. Vertex is down here. This is a minimum. Number 16, write the following quadratic in intercept form. Y equals x squared minus 6x plus 5. So what we need to do is find the factors. You can go through and weigh your answer choices. There's positives and negatives to this. So you can do that. So let's do a bit of a process of elimination. Remember, let's at least make the ACB chart. That'll help. This will keep our thoughts together. AC is 5, and B is negative 6. Actually, let's just do this. This will take 5 seconds. AC, there's only one way to get 5 with multiplication. It's 1 and 5. Now, to get a negative 6, I have to make both of these negatives. Because remember, a negative times a negative is still positive. And then when I combine them, I will get negative 6. So I want the equation that has negative 1 and negative 5. B. 17, same type of problem. ACB. -6. And then B is -1. Okay, we have a couple options here. We can use 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. Now, if you think about it, I wouldn't be able to get a -1 with 1 and 6, but let's just try it out. To get this to be negative, my big number has to have the negative sign on it. 1 minus 6, that's -5. That is not what we want. Negative on the 3. 2 times -3, that's -6. 2 minus 3 is -1. So let's look for +2, -3. D. All right, number 18. What is the vertex of the function y equals x squared minus 2x minus 9? Let's find the vertex. First, we find the axis of symmetry. X equals -b over 2a. Write this out, please. Don't do this in your head. Far too many mistakes are made by trying to do this in your head. Negative b is -2 over 2 times a is 1. Negative -2, that's a +2 over 2 is 1. Now, that didn't give us our answer, but it did eliminate 2 of them. So, 50-50 shot here. Now, let's plug 1 back into our equation. Because now we know x, let's find y. Y equals 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 9. 1 squared is 1 minus 2 minus 9. Now, with all these negatives involved, we're going to take a good bet that it's going to be B. 1 minus 2, that's -1 minus 9, that is -10. 1, -10. Last page. Given the following quadratic function, y equals 2x squared plus 12x plus 18, what is the vertex? Same process that I just did. X equals, we would find the axis of symmetry. X equals -b over 2a. -12 over 2 times a, which is 2. -12 over 4. -3. So we can eliminate 2 answer choices. And then now we got to figure out what y is, so we're going to plug in -3. Y equals 2 times -3 squared plus 12 times -3 plus 18. Because I'm running out of space here, I'll just do the calculator. 2 times -3 squared plus 12 times -3 plus 18. 0. C. Number 20. Using the function from 19, what is the domain of the function? You should be able to answer this question in your sleep. Don't have to think about it. Domain is always negative infinity to positive infinity. Range you have to think about. What is the range of the function? Now, of course, you're used to having a picture with this. We don't need a whole picture. We just need a little bit of a picture. So let's draw one. The function from 19. We can tell by the front that it's going to go up. So let's do that. It's up. And we just found our vertex. This point is -3, 0. So if we're looking at a range, we want the y values. So this y value here on the vertex is 0. So the bottom of our range is 0 because this is where it's starting and it's going to go up to infinity. So this is 0 to infinity. It's not negative infinity to infinity because 0 is the lowest it gets. There aren't any numbers under it, not included. And then negative infinity to 0, that'd be if we were down instead of up. So this is how we do it. 21. Given the following function, y equals x squared plus 6x minus 7, write the coordinates of the vertex. More vertex work. The coordinates, that's just the points, x, y. So we're finding the vertex. Axis of symmetry, x equals negative b over 2a. X equals negative 6 over 2 times a is just 1. Negative 6 over 2. X is negative 3. So I have negative 3. Once I find my x, you just plug it back in to find your y. Y equals negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 minus 7. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. 6 times negative 3, that's negative 18 minus 7. 9 minus 18, that's negative 9 minus 7, that's negative 16. Negative 3, negative 16 is my answer here. 23, given the following function, y equals x squared minus 5x minus 36, write the coordinates of the vertex. I am doing the exact same thing here. Axis of symmetry, x equals negative b over 2a. That's how you find the x value. Negative b is negative 5 over 2 times a is 1. Negative 5 is positive 5 over 2. You can leave as 5 over 2 or you can write it as a decimal. Let's do that. It's a nice decimal. It's 2.5. Now we plug it in to get our answer. Plug it in to the equation. Y equals, decimals are better, especially if you're using a calculator. 2.5 squared minus 5 times 2.5 minus 36. And calculator it is. (2.5 squared) minus 5 times 2.5 minus 36. Negative 42.25, and that is the correct answer. I fit it. Negative 42.25. All right. Given the quadratic function y equals negative 2x squared plus 12x minus 3, what is the range? So, this is just like number 21. To answer this problem, we had to know what the vertex was. We don't have that yet, so we have to find the vertex and then answer the question. So this has a couple steps. We do know that this is going to be a down function. So we know it's going to start with negative infinity and come up to whatever this y value is. Unfortunately, we're not able, we actually can eliminate an answer choice. Range is never negative infinity to positive infinity because it will stop eventually. The question is, will it stop at 15 or negative 3? Let's find out. So, what is the range? I need to find the vertex. I need to find the highest point, my maximum here. So, vertex again, find the axis of symmetry. X equals negative b over 2a. Negative 12 over 2 times negative 12, 2 times negative 2, equals negative 12 over negative 4, which is positive 3. Now plug 3 back into the equation to figure out the y, which is what is going to give us our answer. Y equals negative 2 times 3 squared plus 12 times 3 minus 3. Let's just use the calculator. Negative 2 times 3 squared plus 12 times 3 minus 3. 15. So y equals 15. So our vertex is 3, 15. So then when I'm looking at the range over here, this y value over here is at 15. So that's the highest that the graph is going to get. So the highest the graph is going to get on the y-axis is 15 because that's where this point is at on the y-axis. So my range ends at positive 15. All right, 3 more questions. Will the following quadratic function, f of x equals 14x squared minus 2x plus 10, open up or down. Well, x squared, the number in front of it's positive, so it's up. Same question. Which way will the following quadratic function open? Negative 2x squared plus 4x plus 4. First off, no one better put right or left on this test. Those were never options. They are not options. Up or down, 50-50 shot. X squared, look at the number in front of it. It's a negative. Down. Lastly, write the equation of the graph below in intercept form. State the domain and range. Intercept form. That's factored form. So we have y equals, and then our factors. First off, our graph is going up, so this is positive in front, so I don't have to worry about adding a negative in front. So we have our x's, and we're just going to put in our x-intercepts. So let's find them. They are at -1 and +3. Now there's a catch here. This is not x minus 1 and x plus 3. We have to flip the signs. If you remember, we do this because these numbers come from solving these two, splitting and solving. So if I split and solve, I would have x plus 1 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. And when I solve, I get -1 for x and +3 for x, which is what I have on the graph. But to put them in this form, I have to change the signs when I put them in, and then when I take them out, I change the signs back. So you have to be careful with that. Don't just copy paste over. Think about it first. This again is why we change the signs. Domain, you should answer it in your sleep. -infinity to +infinity. Range. All right, let's look at our y values here. This is going up to infinity. Let's figure out where it starts. Down here at this number, which appears to be -4. That's the bottom of the graph. So it starts at -4 and it's going to go up to +infinity. Infinity always gets a bracket. -4, or sorry, infinity always gets a parenthesis. -4 gets a bracket because it's a nice solid point. So it gets a bracket. Reminder, you will not lose credit for getting those signs wrong. All right. We are just under 45 minutes here, and we are done with the benchmark study guide. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me via email or come see me in person before you take your test. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.